All right, we continue tonight with the grand enablement. We're going to be in Revelation chapter 13 in just a moment. But we began to look last week at 7 things that are converging. And these 7 things that are converging are doing it at a pace that is almost unbelievable. It's almost scary. If you didn't know the Lord, it would be scary. So we're going to begin in Revelation 13 tonight. We're going to be talking about the lawless one. This is about halfway through the tribulation. And you know that the 7-year tribulation, the first half is going to be good in some respects for some people. It's going to be bad for others. The last half of the tribulation is going to be bad for everybody. So we begin in Revelation 13 with verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there were given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Remember I told you another name for the lawless one, the Antichrist, is Mr. Big Mouth. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months, 3.5 years. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds, tongues, and nations, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names were not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth, by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. And his number is 666. Oh, wow. So there's a lot there. And, wow, weeks worth there. We'll get back to that in just a moment. I want to bring us up to speed from where we were last week. These 7 things, the apostate church that is also quite gullible, and the lawless times, emerging anti-Semitism, transhumanism. We're going to look at these one by one. We looked at about 4 of them last week. Number 1, the apostate and gullible church. We talked in detail. It is scary what they will accept. It is sad what they will accept as truth. We talked in detail about that. And then the lawless times, taking us back to Genesis 6. People kind of did what they wanted to. We're living in times when, what was it this week? The Muslim lady in Congress said of the rule maker in the Senate, we should just ignore her. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should just ignore her.
Yeah. That's why they're there. You know.
That wouldn't have even been said 2 or 3 years ago even. So we have lawless times right up on us at breakneck speed. And then I believe we ended up talking about the anti-Semitism that's emerging. It's scary. What I would never have conceived possible is really coming together, and it's becoming accepted. It's okay to be anti-Semitic. And then we talked a little bit about transhumanism. And I want to take us back to Revelation 13 as we think about transhumanism. We didn't talk about this, and this is the reason why I chose Revelation 13, because there's something there in Revelation 13, verse 1 and verse 11 that I had never seen, and I can't believe I was so ignorant that I'd never seen it before. So, transhumanism. Okay, we know what that is. We know that that is the digitization of humanity. We're adding hearing aids and pacemakers, and that's just the beginning. We've talked about this a lot. It is astounding how they think they're going to take us to a new reality. Live forever. They think we're going to live forever because of the things they're going to be able to enhance our bodies with and make us human 2.0, if you will. So in Revelation 13:1, it says there was a beast. In verse 11, it says there was another beast. And the thing that I had never put together about these two beasts is that they are composite beasts. Now let that sink in a little bit. Maybe it'll come to you as it came to me. It's so elementary, it was right there in front of me. What is human 2.0? It is a composite. These two beasts are going to be composite beasts, and there's a lot of things there in Revelation 13. In verse 2, the beast which he saw that came up out of the sea, the second beast comes up out of the land, out of the ground. The first beast comes up out of the sea, and it's like a leopard. Now, you get studying about that, and the thing about leopards, probably the reason why it's selected as an illustration here, is because spots are really bad things for God. God hates spots. Leprosy, it's a spot. There's a whole bunch about spots. I won't go into it here, but the leopard has spots. They're imperfections. They're things that are not right. And there's a lot of things about the leopard spot, but I haven't got time to go into it now. But these are composite beasts, just like humanity is going to become composite. They're going to digitize us. They're going to enhance us. They're going to take our genetic material and change it. And we're going to become, we aren't, people during the tribulation are going to become composite beasts, just like the beasts that they're going to worship. Dan, find a microphone.
Well, I'd always seen those as being, I don't know, allegories or, more of a picturesque than the reality of the words. So you're you're saying there that you're thinking there's a possibility that they're actually composite beasts that are standing up, and when he said he saw those, it wasn't allegory or comparative speaking, that he couldn't put in regular language and use that.
Well, yeah, and so he was limited by language. He could only say what he had the ability to say. I believe it's allegorical and physical. I believe, and this is what I'd never seen before, because of the transhumanism, the combining of things together, I believe he's going to be the epitome of that. I could only imagine he's going to be an alien with his head and eyes and all that goes with that. And he's going to be human, and he's going to be a beast. And then we have no point of reference really to understand it. But I think it is allegorical and real, both. That's what I'd never seen before. Because of what transhumanism they're bringing into us, these two beasts are going to be the epitome of that. And I just gave as an illustration there, we went through the study of the unseen realm, and we saw that those mythological creatures that we find in Greek mythology and so forth, that there may actually be some root truth to that. The satyr, as an example, because of what those fallen angels cohabiting with the women did in Genesis chapter 6, it resulted in freaks. And I use that word because it was unnatural. Gigantus is the word that's used, but they're freaks. They're not normal. And so these two beasts that are going to stand up, so you've got the power behind these two beasts. You've got an unholy trinity. You've got the Antichrist. He will be a political figure. You've got the false prophet who's going to be a religious figure. And you'll notice there that it says that the whole world is going to worship both the beast and the dragon, the power behind. So you've got the unholy trinity that's going to be worshipped. Okay, I'd never put that together. It was all right there, but I'd never seen it that way before. What they're bringing in now, and what they're really going to do in the tribulation time with transhumanism, these beasts are going to be the epitome of it. And I think there's probably reasons, the changes that they're going to make to us genetically and mechanically and electronically that are going to change us up, that are going to say, wow, those beasts, that's what I'd like to be like. Who is like unto the beast? Now, they're going to worship him. Now, it takes a lot, to bring somebody to worship something. They're going to be so awed by this guy, they're going to worship him. And for a lot of reasons. He's going to have a wound that's going to seem like he's going to be dead, and he's going to resurrect. That's pretty impressive. Any questions before we move on? Yes.
What's the significance of the beast having 7 heads but 10 horns? It's not 1 to 1 or whatever.
They're nations, obviously, and they're crowns. That's what kings have. And there's a lot we could probably go into about the revived Roman Empire. What that means is interesting. Does it mean the actual physical, geographical area of what was the Roman Empire? Or is it a larger system, that is the Roman system, that ties into Babylon? There's going to be a oneness, a unity to all of that. I lead towards it's a whole world system. But it is the revived Roman Empire.
So there's talk in there about the 10 countries or the 10 countries of Europe or whatever. That could be part of that, you think?
There are more than 10 countries, so that's out the window.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what that means. None of the prophecy teachers, nobody knows what that means because we've surpassed the 10. So we're just going to have to wait and see what that is. Okay? Then let's talk about that false prophet. This is the fifth, and this is not in any particular order, but these things are converging together. They're coming to power. They're coming to the preeminence now in the world. And the false prophet is one of those, and I've told you, we've talked about it at length. The current pope is really in the running for the false prophet. I mean, he's looking good for it. And in fact, it's interesting. I remember when I was back in college, I did some research for a paper. And in that paper, I read some Roman Catholic writings from back in the Middle Ages. And their sages could read Revelation, and they could say, hey, that woman riding a beast, that looks a lot like us. And so they have always been very careful because they knew that the final pope would be the false prophet. They knew that. And so they've been careful to make sure they don't elect that false prophet. Although I think they did. Microphone. Don't pick it up, just talk. Don't pick it up, just talk. Don't pick it up, just talk.
Is the current Pope a Jesuit?
Well, you know the answer to that question, right?
Pardon me?
You know the answer to that question, right?
I assume it's yes.
Okay. How many popes have been Jesuits?
How many popes what?
Have been Jesuits.
None.
Either none or this is the second one. I forget now. I think this is the first one. But the interesting thing about that is the Jesuits and what they were. The Jesuits were invented and established by the Pope in the Middle Ages to eliminate all opposition to the Roman Catholic Church. They were spies. They were people that literally undercut entire governments by their ways. Now, that ties in interesting to this guy if he's the false prophet. So here's a headline kind of from a writing, and he ties this thing together, the reason why I present this. For the first time ever, the New World Order movement has gained powerful public backing for many of their agendas from the head of the Roman Catholic Church. Now watch this, who has aggressively insisted that climate change, open borders, anti-capitalism or communism, and more are now issues of moral and religious obligation for a new worldly Catholic Church. It also appears that some in the Vatican may be laying the groundwork for a moral and religious case in favor of population control. Okay, these are things that the church would never have addressed, 100 years ago, wouldn't even know what they were. Now, these are the touch points for the left. And the Catholic priest is right in there. And he's working in the United Nations. It gets even better. Amir presented this. I just saw it tonight. Next week in Iraq, the Ayatollah and the Pope. Now, not the Iranian Ayatollah. This is the Shia version of Islam. They have their Ayatollah as well, several Ayatollahs. In Iraq, the Pope is coming to have a friendly meeting with his new friend. It's called Chrislam. It's the combining of Christianity and Islam. It's coming. Unbelievable? Believe it. It's coming. This guy looks good for the false prophet. So the sixth thing that we see shaping up that's converging with these other things is a return to Babel. You remember Babel, the Tower of Babel, Nimrod. A lot of things about Nimrod that are very interesting. He was a hunter. And from some of the things that you can study about him, it seems as though he was not just a great hunter, he was a great hunter of men. You know, that's the most challenging beast. It's not really much of a challenge to sit and wait for a deer to walk by and shoot him. That's not really much of a challenge. But a human being, that's a much harder thing to kill. Nimrod may well have been a hunter of men. Anyway, he was there and helped shape this Tower of Babel to reach up to heaven. And God had a conversation. And, you know, I'd always thought it was the Trinity that had the conversation. But after our unseen realm discussion, now we may think that it was with spirits and angels and all of these entities in the other realm. He had a conversation with all of them. He said, we have to go down and deal with this. And so they went down. And what was the thing about Babel? In your mind, what comes to you about Babel?
Idols.
Idols, which of course ties in with Revelation 13. It's going to be anti-God all the way. Everything united together. All the people were brought together. God had told them to go out and populate the earth. We're still under that mandate. And population control is mathematically not a thing. A few years ago, somebody calculated, I think it was Minnesota, if you take every human being on the planet and you stood them side to side, shoulder to shoulder, you could put them all in the state of Minnesota. Now that's completely different from what you're thinking about the population of the earth. We've got vast, huge areas, not just in Kansas, but Wyoming and etc., where there's no people.
Yeah.
Population problem is not a thing. It's like global warming that became climate change. It's a trumped up thing. We're still under the mandate to be going out. Babel is bringing it all together. That's what's going to happen during the 7 years of tribulation. That's what's going on right now. We are connected in ways. My brother-in-law works for General Motors here in Kansas City. He just got laid off. General Motors used to be an American company. It's a multinational company. And the reason why they're laying them off is because a company in Japan is not making something for which they can go ahead and finish making cars here.
Wow.
Globalism. Okay? Who was the most anti-globalism leader that you ever heard of? Trump. You probably get tired of me saying this, but it is so right there in our face. This guy had to go.
Yeah.
No matter what it took, election or otherwise, he had to go. And he went. It's unbelievable the forces that came together to get him out. Unnatural. Mm-hmm. Now, you feel bad about that? Do you feel bad about the election? Trump's not president? Not me. I couldn't be happier. Because that means Jesus is right around the corner. Why would I want 4 more years of being an earth dweller? I don't want 4 more years of this. I want my mansion. My grandkids are all saved. So, all of this coming back together that had been separated at the Tower of Babel, man's going to bring it back together. Politically, economically, religiously, it's all coming back together. And the Pope is going to fit right in there with it. The false prophet is going to facilitate the religious end of it. Everybody's going to be spiritual during the tribulation time. They're going to worship the beast or they'll die. And just a word about that. And I see this today with those of you who hate wearing masks. How many of you hate wearing masks? Okay, it's almost a religion for you, isn't it? So that's getting us set up for the mark of the beast. That's an incremental movement towards that. And you can defiantly say, well, I'm not going to wear a mask. Last week I went to the dentist. And at the end of him working on me, he asked me, he said, have you got your appointment to get your shot, your vaccine? Okay, slowly I turned, inch by inch. I grabbed him by the throat.
Oh,
And I gave him 5 reasons why I'm not getting the shot. Yet. I probably will get it. And he got mad.
oh,
Fortunately, he was done with me.
oh.
And he left. Now, think about this. What if I had called his office and I'm in some... You ever had a toothache? Do you know what you'll do to make that toothache go away? You'll do anything anybody tells you to do. What if I called his office and the nurse said, have you had your shot yet? And I said, no. So well, the doctor won't see you. I called this one. Have you had your shot? No. Doctor won't see you. That's just a toothache, folks. That's just a toothache. How many ways could they force you, and they probably will, in Israel right now? Not everybody's got the shot. The ones who don't have the shot have had the blood test and they have the antibodies. You have one of those two things, or you have this choice. The only travel you can make is to the grocery store at home. You just bow your neck and you just defy. You say, it won't matter. And they get your kid with the sword on top of their neck. Tribulation is not going to be a friendly time. And I think we're going to be seeing some things coming up to it. I'm going to get my vaccine probably after a few more months and there's a little bit more data. Because frankly, the shot's not the mark of the beast. If you think the shot... I was listening to Amir today. And on the side was scrolling all these people. I don't know why they think it's important. From Newfoundland, hello, shalom. What is that all about? But there were a bunch of them were saying the vaccine contains alien genetics. The vaccine is the mark of the beast. And there were people going on, yes, that's right, yeah. Don't be stupid. We're coming to that. We're not there yet. My mother-in-law hasn't, she's had her shot. My daughter goes down there and cleans for her and fellowships with her and different things. Judy hasn't had her vaccine. Is her mother going to live in such fear that she won't see her daughter? Maybe. Do you begin to see? You have no control over your life. You can bow your neck if you want to. You don't have any control. And when this thing gets underway, it's going to be real serious. We need to be out of here.
Yeah,
Because there's no resisting. There's no resisting what's coming.
yeah,
Dan.
you're right.
Might be a shift in the discussion a little bit, but in there on, I think it's verse 7, talks he's given power to, I think it's to make war with the saints and overcome them. I'm assuming that those points, this is after the tribulation.
It's halfway through.
I'm sorry, after the rapture. So these are the saints of Israel, the witnesses, and anyone who has come to know Christ until this time.
And that's evidence that there's going to be some people who do that.
So, but to overcome them, whatever that specifically means, but I was kind of interested in that, regardless of how they've got these things set up, and they can stop you from doing whatever the case may be, but it definitely says that he'll overcome many or overcome them. So,
In that verse, in that sense, the overcoming is probably just dominate.
okay.
But we know that spiritually, saints can't be dominated, right? That's what you're going for.
Well, that was a tie-in back to what you're talking about now,
Yeah.
manipulation.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
To make it hard.
Yeah, we're coming to a time when right is wrong and wrong is right, right? That time is going to be the epitome of that. And you can be a rational thinking person. You can say, I don't know, worship the beast. He's just a guy. They will. Or they will be dominated, whatever that means. They will have to go underground, living in caves, trying to get away. It's awful beyond imagination. You know, and I could say, oh, but I'll just walk so close with the Lord, I'll just resist. I'm telling you, you get a toothache, they put a sword on the neck of your child. You know, you study about the saints who died at the stake burning. God does give you that power in that moment. That's not a moment that I want to live through. We may be coming to that, because while we are never going to experience the wrath of God as believers, the church has always suffered the persecution of the devil. And we're going to be coming up to this more and more. Do you feel the noose tightening around us in America?
Obviously.
Do you know what that means? Look to the hills, for your redemption draweth nigh. We're close. We're real close.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
But
Well-
you think what's happened the last 30 days, a year from now, how's it gonna be like?
So the seventh thing is the growing persecution of true believers. Now, there's no persecution of not so true believers. Now, Christianity is divided over this thing, so-called Christianity, over the thing of the masks. What did they say about the governor of Texas, about what he said? And by the way, he's following what the CDC said.
Yeah.
The church is divided over these physical, political things. When what had we ought to be doing? I don't care whether you get a vaccine shot. I don't care whether you have a mask. Those things don't matter. I love you just the same. For us to fight over that's ridiculous. It's absurd. That's not what matters. What does matter? If we're close, souls matter.
Amen.
Let me share a verse over in chapter 18. Revelation 18. Where is that verse? Oh, yeah. This has always fascinated me, and now it kind of scares me. Revelation 18, it says that, backing up, Babylon is destroyed. You know, and Amir and some of them were talking about that on their podcast today. How do we oppose Babylon and that system? No, we don't. Who's going to destroy Babylon? Not us. Right there. Babylon the Great, the mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. God's going to destroy this world system of Babylon in 1 hour. And then it says, the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn. What is it they're mourning over? That they're losing money. They're losing money. They're not going to be able to make money on gold and silver and stones and pearls and linen and purple and silk. And here's the part that gets me. The end of verse 13. Evidently, Babylon is going to merchandise in slaves and the souls of men. Now, this is interesting speculation. How do you merchandise in the souls of men? Transhumanism is going to bring us to the place where they're going to be able to interface with us and do unnatural things. I don't even know what they are. They're going to access that inner man, or try, and they're going to be able to buy and sell the souls of men. I don't know what that means. It's in my Bible, so it means something. And it scares me what those people are going to have to go through. And it makes me so cotton-picking glad I'm a Christian.
Amen.
I couldn't be happier that we're this close. Every time I have someone in the Lord that dies, I'm jealous and envious. Because 1 second after they died, they knew what I'll have to wait to know, what Jesus looks like. What does he look like? Well, he's Jewish. He's got nail prints. Beyond that, I can only imagine. And they see, they know. One of these days we will too. So that's where we're going to end this. We will end on a note of possibility.